first question is, how long have you been involved with the Green Group?
I have been the advisor since like 08, 09, that school year, since fall of 2008.
You wouldn't happen to know like why kids would want to start a group like this at all?
I know that they just felt they actually just are very green, you know, very environmental, and they had seen initiatives and read about them that other schools were doing and decided that that would be, they really took it upon their own initiative to start the group. So it started a little bit small, and at that point they just asked, I wasn't even here, but they asked Mrs. Evie, would you just, we can't have a club unless we have a teacher who will sponsor it. So she did, and then when I came along and they knew I actually was very into the environment, then they said, you need to run this. So, but really it was just their enthusiasm for wanting to be green, you know.
Okay, that's cool. Because like, one of the other questions that I had was if you were like into the environment too, so I guess that kind of answers that one.
Yeah, yeah.
Do you think this like makes any kind of difference in the environment? Like, do you think this actually helps any? Or
Does it make a difference?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it gets discouraging sometimes, you know, because we buy more and more bins, and then we have a bin next to a garbage can, and you look in the garbage can, and all the bottles are in the garbage can, and it's like, well, there's a bin right here, you know, so it does get frustrating, you know, certainly for all the kids. But I think they're really starting to think about new initiatives too, like what else could we do? Okay, now we got recycling pretty much down. But what now could we do? You know, like they're looking at what could we do to try and encourage people to bring water bottles instead of buying water bottles, you know, to reduce plastic. And, you know, what are other things we can do within our community maybe? So it's getting them thinking about it. And so hopefully we'll be able to build on it and make it even bigger difference. And some of the schools, we're in a green school program, and some of them have gotten rid of all their trays in the lunchroom are biodegradable, and all sorts of kind of interesting things like that that we just haven't gotten that far. So we're building for it.
do you think this is like a good group that everyone should be participating in at Brighton High School?
Well, of course I would say yes, but you know, you're just not going to get everyone. But I would like to see it grow a little because, well, I mean, I'd love to see it grow a lot, but it tends to be, you know, like today when we have a whole bunch of them that are out on a field trip, there's a very small group of kids, and they'll probably be here until 5:30. Whereas when we have, if we just had 6 more kids out there, that's all it would take, and we'd be done by 3:30 or 4. And I mean, there are times when we have a lot of kids and we're done really early. So I would like to see it grow. Plus, I think then you can start to branch out. We'd like to be able to have committees. This committee is going to work on one initiative and this one another. Instead, the same people end up having to do everything. And they're willing to do it because they're pretty passionate about it.
Lots of dedication.
But it would be nice if they didn't have to do it every time. You know, if they want to, sure. But it's tough with the same group of kids. You know, they got to be pretty dedicated. And even now our college graduates come back and help because they know that, especially at the end of the year, things start to like peter out. And so they'll come back and help just because they know. And it would be nice to grow and not have to worry about that anymore. So, yeah.
Do you think you guys will do any more advertisement for it, or just help raise awareness about
I
it?
definitely want to work on that. And I'm going to, you know, Miss Forsberg started helping this year. And she's, you know, she's a co-advisor, but this year she was kind of getting her feet wet, so she didn't do a ton. But I think that that's where her strength could be. You know, I have them organized, I know all of that, but, you know, maybe let's, you know, branch out. That could be, you know, her that she could just run with and see what she can do to get more kids involved earlier. So we want to do some activity right at the beginning instead of waiting till Earth Week, which is in April. We need to do something in September that would make people be like, hey, I want to join this group. So we're thinking about how to do that.
Do you think it would be better if we started earlier on in the schools, like down the chain, like in elementary schools with this kind of stuff? Or?
I think they do. I think now, I don't know if it goes down to elementary, but I know Maltby and Scranton at least are in the Green Schools program. So I don't know how much kid involvement there is, like how much student involvement, or how much it is just that the teachers have pledged, I don't know, to use less paper or whatever. So that is interesting. I should think about that, because there's a couple I know, like if you remember Mr. Yates, you know, who used to be here, he's very into the green group thing and environmentalism. So I should talk to him and say, hey, how do we make this so that kids want to be in this group as they're coming in as freshmen? And we actually did have quite a few freshmen, so I'll have to ask them, was that part of it, you know, that you were already part of green group? But I get the feeling that it's probably more in a building level than a student level.
So, like, do you think more teachers are involved with this than the students, or?
Just at the lower levels. At our level, no. Sometimes I think most of the teachers, we try and get them at least a couple of days. All of them are willing to recycle and put their stuff out on Fridays and do all of that. But other than that, they're not, they aren't really involved in any other form, So it's basically completely student.
One quick question for you. What's your opinion on fracking?
Not really. I don't know a ton about it. The Mr. Leonard's the one you should ask about that. But I feel like it's a dangerous practice to it's a slippery slope, and the hurt it's going to do to the environment is not going to solve the problem that we have. At some point, we need to realize that there are energy sources that are going to run out, and instead of trying to find new and awful ways to find them, why don't we, spend more time on wind energy and solar energy and all of these things that are renewable and aren't going to hurt the environment?
I think as soon as they get the battery storage power, that's going to start progressing, because right now they can't really store that kind of energy.
I know. There are just so many little initiatives that I think are going to become, even, if you're driving on 96 now, they have all those solar panels. It's like, we're moving, we're getting there. And think how many of those wind turbines you see now. I mean, we don't have a ton in Michigan, but some areas do. And, I know people feel, they don't know what to feel about them, because it changes the look of the environment and, what the landscape looks like. But overall, it does very little damage to the environment compared to, the amount of energy we can get, from the turbines. But I do think we need to really start, rather than, drill for more oil, rather than get into fracking, we need to be getting away from that and looking at, unfortunately, we are car dependent, especially Michigan. We have no, really, any sort of efficient public transportation.
None at all.
Have you guys ever been to Washington, D.C.? Did you either be close?
I've been to Washington, D.C.
You can take the metro everywhere. And, it kills me that we just haven't.
It's probably because it's like an automobile state, so it's not as much of a public transportation.
Yeah, the auto manufacturers, if you look back through history, have blocked all legislation to make public transportation in Michigan because they want to sell cars. And overall, the U.S. is big and sprawling, you know, so we've got all these places to go in cars. You know, when you go to Europe, it's just not like that. I mean, people have cars for sure, but everybody's got some sort of public transportation, and there's actually many people who don't own cars.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
The world is a vampire.